I was getting a lot of comments on my new WB video, going over like their restructuring plan, and people were just like, "Oh, I'm mad. We're not going to be able to play DC games on anything other than PlayStation." And did you hear Sony's buying WB? I'm like, what? So when I was originally making my video on WB's gaming division restructuring, I saw the article talking about the rumors that Sony was considering buying into some portion of WB, but I like looked into it a little bit and was like, oh, this is obviously silly, and just thought nothing of it. But then I saw a bunch of posts like these going around. This one in particular stood out to me. Like, it's saying Sony wants to buy WB game assets. The gaming assets include Mortal Kombat, Game of Thrones, Harry Potter, and DC. So I'm going to explain why that part's just obviously just completely not true and doesn't even make sense. I thought it was worth getting to the origin of it. So this originally came from Reddit, as is usually the case. This was posted a few days ago and has been gaining traction ever since. So it says Sony is considering to acquire Warner Bros. Discovery, Streaming, and Studios. Less than a week after Warner Bros. Discovery announced it was splitting into two separate companies, Sony is considering a purchase of WBD Streaming and other assets. Sources have told SC Scoops that Sony is considering a purchase of the newly announced WBD Streaming and Studios company, which is expected to complete its separation from WB Global Networks by mid-2026. Sony is interested in acquiring WBD's HBO Max streaming service, IPs, and its gaming assets. Sources says Sony was only interested in acquiring WBD streaming, studio, and gaming assets if they were separated from its cable networks, which have lost millions of homes as viewers abandon traditional cable packages. David Zaslav, the current CEO of Warner Bros. Discovery, is expected to take over WBD streaming and studios after the spinoff is complete in 2026. His status under a potential Sony purchase is unclear. So the source of this is SEI Scoops, which, as you can see from their related news, they are not a Jason Schreier, Bloomberg type of site. They're not Insider Gaming. They're not Jeff Grubb. They're a wrestling site. They cover wrestling. They cover AEW. They cover WWE. This is what they do. This is what SE Scoops does. They cover wrestling. So right off the bat, you should be very skeptical about this rumor, because it's like, this is a wrestling website. How would they have something about WB and Sony? It's completely out of their wheelhouse. Now, it's possible that this person's got a scoop, a legitimate scoop, and thought, hey, even though it's not wrestling related, it's worth talking about. Personally, I doubt it, but we definitely got to address stuff like this, because I think people are greatly overestimating how much money Sony has. So let me put this, I think I have it pulled up. I think I have it pulled up in another tab. Let me show you how much money Sony like actually has, because it's obviously a lot. It's not what you think though. It's relatively a lot. So this is Routers doing a forecast of Sony's fiscal reporting and their forecast. So here it is. The PS5 sales fell 35%. Here's the important bit. Sony said on Wednesday it expects operating profit to rise 0.3% to 1.28 trillion yen, which is $8.7 billion in the financial year ending in March, after factoring in a 100 billion yen hit from the US President Trump's trade war. Okay, so 8.7 billion, close to $9 billion. That's profit. So that's money after they've factored in costs, everything they're spending, all investments, everything like that. Their revenue is about 90 billion. But the profit, the actual profit, once you remove all their expenses, comes about $9 billion. It's a lot of money, relatively. But in comparison, Microsoft's profits a year are about $120 billion. Okay. There is no way in all of the 9 realms Sony can afford to buy Mortal Kombat, Game of Thrones, Harry Potter, DC Comics, and HBO Max. They couldn't buy one of these. Because this is the thing. These are not gaming assets. These are IPs. IPs are separate from gaming assets. A gaming asset would be Rocksteady Studios or the Nemesis system. The actual IP, DC Comics, would encompass more than just video games. It's all of DC. It would be the rights to the movies, the shows, the merchandise. Those aren't gaming assets. That's the entire IP. That's a completely different thing. Harry Potter alone was valuated at $25 billion. Just the Harry Potter IP. Valuation of about $25 billion. So by itself, Harry Potter is worth more than double, almost triple what Sony made in profit for an entire year. There is no way Sony could pull this off unless they got into a partnership with someone with actual money, like Jeff Bezos and Amazon or Microsoft. Like if Sony partnered with Microsoft, they could pull this off, but then Microsoft would be paying for most of it. Sony just doesn't have the money to pull this off. FCC wouldn't let Microsoft make this acquisition. I mean, they would definitely give them some token resistance, but they let them buy Activision. I'm not putting it past them if they would allow someone to buy all these assets, especially since, it's WB. There's always a possibility they could go bankrupt and end up, fire sailing all of this stuff. But yeah, in general, the idea that Sony by themselves is buying all of this is just absolute nonsense. Like I'm sure a Sony executive was sitting around and be like, man, it sure would be nice if we owned Harry Potter, DC, but there's absolutely no way Sony executives sat down and had a serious conversation about buying the 4 main IPs that Warner Bros. Is going to be building their gaming division around. That literally never happened. You can safely dismiss this rumor, chat. This is not a real thing. If Sony wanted to have PlayStation exclusive DC games, they could do that right now. And it would be a lot cheaper. Because you know what all they would have to do? They'd be like, okay, we own several gaming studios. We just need a license. Okay, hey WB, we like to make a DC video game. We would like to make it a exclusive to PlayStation. Would you sell us a license? And WB would be like, sure. Thank you for your money. And then they would have one of their studios make a DC video game, depending on the scale, probably cost them 100 mil, 80 to 100 mil, depending on how big they want to make it. Maybe, up to potentially 200. And then you have a PlayStation exclusive DC video game. Easy. Much easier than trying to come up with billions of dollars to acquire one of these IPs outright. Like they just spent like $3 billion on Bungie, and they already regret that one. They're not making any money off of that. You think they're about to try to spend another potentially just for DC will probably cost them 6, maybe even more, because DC is trending upward because of James Gunn. Like Marvel sold for $4 billion to Disney before like the MCU really popped off, and now the DCU is starting to pop off and it's still very profitable, particularly with like Batman comics and stuff like that. So what you're looking at potentially a $10 billion acquisition for DC? This is not happening. There's no way this is happening. Game Pass HBO Max does sound like an exciting bundle. True, actually, but it's definitely not going to be a Sony thing. Like Sony and Max, I don't know about this. Like, I guess Sony wants to kind of get into the streaming game. I mean, they kind of already are because they own Crunchyroll, but I guess it would make sense to have Max. But again, all of this, no, it's not happening. That's way more money than Sony has at their disposal. It's not happening.